So there's a new bill making the rounds in Sri Lanka called the Protection of the State from Terrorism Act. And honestly, it could completely change how you live your life online. We're talking about your private messages, the photos you share, your social media posts. All of it could suddenly be at risk. So let's get into it and break down what this really means for you.
You know, a lot of people are looking at this and asking one simple question. Is this just old wine in a new bottle? It's a really powerful way to put it, and it gets right to the heart of the whole debate. Are we looking at a genuine step forward, or is this just the same old problems dressed up in a brand new package?
And here's where it gets really tricky. The promise was to get rid of the old, very controversial Prevention of Terrorism Act, the PTA. But the reality? Well, this new bill seems to hold on to the most dangerous parts of that old law. And then, and this is the critical part, it adds a whole new set of threats, specifically for our digital world.
So let's start there. Let's look at how this new act basically takes old dangers and gives them a 21st century upgrade. The name might be new, but the potential for things to go wrong, especially online, has gotten way, way bigger.
And look, this isn't some far-off theory. This is happening right now. The bill is actually open for public comment as we speak, but only for 1 month. That's a tiny window, which makes understanding what's at stake right now absolutely crucial.
All right, let's dive into the first really big problem here. The idea that a simple, everyday post you make online could suddenly be treated as a serious crime. Just stop and think about that for a second. Imagine you're out and you see a protest, so you snap a picture and post it. Or you're just driving down the road and share a photo of a military checkpoint. These seem like harmless, everyday actions, right? Well, under this new law, that simple act of sharing what you see could be enough to get you labeled a terrorist. So how on earth is that even possible?
Well, it all comes down to something in Section 78 of the bill, and its incredibly vague definition of confidential information. Now, this isn't just about, top secret government files. The definition is so broad it can cover things like someone's travel plans, details about an investigation, or even your passwords and encryption keys.
So what does this actually look like in real life? Well, because that definition is so ridiculously vague, it means posting a photo of a checkpoint, describing police activity you saw, or even just sending a quick WhatsApp to your neighbor to warn them about a search happening nearby. All of that could now be twisted into the crime of sharing confidential information.
And here's something that's really, really important to get. While this affects everyone, it definitely doesn't affect everyone equally. Think about journalists who are trying to report the news, or activists monitoring human rights. Think about people in the North and East who often document the heavy military presence in their areas. For them, this is a massive threat. Their day-to-day work, the very thing they do, could suddenly become a crime.
And that leads us right into the next huge problem. This isn't just about what you post for the world to see. It's about the basic privacy of your one-on-one conversations.
I mean, we all use apps like WhatsApp and Signal, and we use them because we trust that they're secure, right? That little message about end-to-end encryption means that our conversations are private. Nobody else can read them. This law, though, it's basically designed to punch a hole right through that promise of security.
So how do they pull this off? It's basically a three-step process. First, under Section 55, a court can just order you to unlock your encrypted messages. Simple as that. Second, Section 19 gives the military the power to arrest you and take your phone or your laptop. And then the final step, you can be forced by law to give them your password. And at that point, all the amazing encryption technology in the world means absolutely nothing. It's useless.
But it gets even crazier. The power of this law doesn't just stop at Sri Lanka's borders. And this is a part that a lot of people might miss, but it's so important, especially for Sri Lankans living all over the world.
And this isn't some vague interpretation. The law literally says in Section 2C that it applies to all Sri Lankan citizens, no matter where they are in the world. And yes, that explicitly includes dual citizens. Just think about that for a minute. Something you do online while living thousands of miles away could get you in trouble back in Sri Lanka.
Okay, let's paint a picture here. Imagine an activist is living in New York. They get a WhatsApp from a cousin back home in Jaffna, just telling them about some military activity in the neighborhood. The activist shares that info online, maybe to raise awareness. Well, under this new law, that person in New York could actually be charged with a crime in Sri Lanka just for sharing news from their own family.
So what happens when you put all of this together? When you can criminalize a simple post, break into private messages, and have a law that follows you around the globe? What does that actually do to a society?
There's a powerful phrase in Sinhala that sums it up perfectly.
PTA sevenalyaki, which translates to a chilling effect. It's that shadow of fear. It's when a law is so broad and the punishments are so severe that people just become scared to speak their minds. It's that little voice in the back of your head that makes you hesitate before you post, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you're terrified your words might be twisted against you.
And if you want to understand just how real that fear is, just look at this number, 7. What could that possibly mean?
It means 7 years. That's how long you could go to prison, under Section 15, for failing to report something you know about so-called terrorism. And get this, that's not for doing something wrong. That's for not doing something, for just staying quiet. The impact of that is just huge. Think about it. This puts people who depend on trust, right, journalists, lawyers, doctors, in an impossible spot. But it goes even further. This could make the admin of your family WhatsApp group legally responsible for reporting what a cousin posts. It basically tries to turn regular people into spies for the state.
Now, you might be thinking, surely there's some kind of protection in the law. The bill does mention something about a good faith defense, but here's the catch. The law never actually defines what good faith means. And even worse, there's language in the draft that suggests things like criticism, satire, or even a simple joke might not be protected at all.
And this is maybe the scariest part. This new law isn't working alone. When you take all of its powers and combine them with the Online Safety Act, which has already been passed, well, the threat isn't just added, it's multiplied. These two laws could work hand in hand to create a massive system for controlling what people say and do online.
So, it all comes back to that one fundamental question. When you have a law with definitions so vague they can turn a post into a crime, with the power to shatter our digital privacy in a reach that stretches across the entire planet, you have to ask yourself, is this really the digital future we want?